Bellular himself has some stuff about the gaming industry worldwide, all the layoffs, and what the most recent layoffs at Activision Blizzard have to do with all this. So let's see what Bell has to say. The axe has fallen on Activision Blizzard.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today it's actually some pretty damn rough news. We've been tracking the number of job layoffs that there have been in the games industry
massive amounts of layoffs,
year,
man.
and well, this year's count has just increased massively by 1,900 because Microsoft have axed 1,900 positions across Xbox, ZeniMax, and Activision Blizzard King. We've also got a game cancellation, Mike Ybarra leaving as president of Blizzard, which actually goes directly, even though it's being framed as voluntary, it goes directly against something that he said fairly recently. And another just rough wrinkle
that's
to
the
this.
thing. Like, I never saw this coming. Mike Ybarra seemed like, even at his speech at BlizzCon. Now, these CEOs are very good with their poker faces, so you never know. But he just seemed so excited about the merger. He seemed excited about continuing forward. He seemed excited about what the future holds for Blizzard. Blizzard and Activision. It just seemed like it came out of nowhere. I really thought he was going to stay on as the CEO, but maybe there was conflicting ideas. Maybe, like I said before, he made money, made a lot of money in this deal, and he just decided, you know what, it ain't worth the stress. I'm going to take a break. Who knows?
This announcement
Nintendo hates
happened while
Palworld, yes.
loads of their Pacific Coast staff, so the people in California at, say, Blizzard, well, when they were still asleep or just getting up in the morning, like 7 a.m., and even now, a little bit of time after this broke, as I'm recording this, I am seeing like staff that I know at these companies posting that they still don't know if they're impacted yet. There were quite a lot of criticisms with Riot's recent layoffs where...
Blizzard announced that this layoff was happening. Microsoft did. We just read the announcement, and it says people who have been affected by this will be notified, which means they released the announcement that they're going to fire 1,900 people before they told the 1,900 people who they're going to be. Man, the nervousness that must have occurred.
They, I think, had rolling updates over an hour as people would find out. This does appear to be a pretty damn worse implementation. Of course,
I think you're better off telling the employees first
what's going on, why it's likely going on, and what the impact to you in the industry is going to be. So, in service of that, let's just get into today's
You know what it is? You know what it's equivalent to? If any of you are married, your wife ever texts you, "Hey, call me when you get a chance." Oh shit. Or you get a text like, "We need to talk." Oh my god. I talk about your heart dropping into your ass. Yeah, that's the worst, man. Just tell me what it is. Tell me the freaking shit. Text me, hey, we got to talk about this, so I'm not freaking worried about what's happening. You know, that's what happened to these employees. They got the freaking notification, 1,900 layoffs, and then over the next hour, they had to sit and wait to figure out if they're one of the 1,900. That's horrible.
Story. Now, this comes 1 week after the Xbox Developer Direct. That was basically showing off like the future of Xbox titles. So it is rough that now we hear this. And rather suspiciously, well, there is going to be a quarterly earnings report for us to talk about as well. This story broke because The Verge received an internal memo from Phil Spencer to the games division. This was at 7 a.m. California time. And overall, he said this: "Together, we've set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured that we're all aligned on the best opportunities for
cost-cutting
growth."
measures.
And yes, that means the 1,900 out of 22,000 people are being laid off. And that actually is not that this is a competition, but sometimes these companies are almost treating it that way. This is more than Unity. We're the former number one of this year's count with 1,800 staff going. Layoff Watch 2024 is honestly pretty damn depressing. We've now got 5,900 cuts.
It's all repercussions of COVID, man. It's all the over-hire, over-fire mentality, you know, where there's no punishment for really firing people. And all these companies just really overhired during COVID when they had explosive growth because everyone was home. You know, like I said earlier, jerking off or playing video games. So people, they had crazy growth. They hired a ton of people, and that growth fell off when everyone returned to work. And a lot of people have, in fact, returned to the office this year, too. So you had, like, the return to work in phases where people stayed remote for a while. And now, even where I work, it's return to office time. Like, it's back to normal, bitches. There is no fucking stay at home and work and play video games all day and pretend like you're online. So they had a massive drop-off. And all these employees that they hired because of this massive growth, they're gone now. That's the truth.
thus far in 2024.
I'm not in New
January
York. I'm a
hasn't even
Detroiter.
finished yet. And we've already reached 60%
Go
of
Lions.
last year's total. So if you thought last year was bad, I mean, this year is honestly trending to be so much worse.
I don't think
Another
it's the end
side
of
to
WoW.
this is, well, this is what was
WoW will
announced,
be
what
fine.
Mike Ybarra said. Basically that he's chosen to leave the company and a new president will be appointed next week for Blizzard Entertainment. Additionally, Blizzard's chief design officer, Alan
Same
Adam,
time
is
zone as New
also
York.
going to leave. This was part of a post where Matt Booty, who is their president of studios, talked about just his influence, how it'll be felt for years to come. Now, it is interesting with Alan. He was a co-founder of Blizzard way back in the day. He left and then he came back. And when he came back, he was essentially leading an internal incubation division. The context here is Blizzard saw that Hearthstone did really well, even though it didn't have a massive development team. Of course, this is in the era where Project Titan has exploded in their face. They see something like Hearthstone do well, and then Blizzard essentially decided, okay, let's try to incubate more projects like this.
Right.
Now, there is, of course, Diablo Immortal. I don't actually know if that's part of that incubation program because it was a co-development with NetEase, but as an example, Warcraft Rumble would have been one of the outputs of that incubation division. Obviously, though...
I disagree. Removing this many devs will always have an impact on all Blizzard games in development. It will have an impact, but at the end of the day, the team's still going to be bigger than it was when it was at Activision Blizzard. That's how I see it. The joining with Microsoft is just the amount of assets they now have, the amount of access to developers and everything else. It's just exponentially grew, and I'm sure that's part of it. There was a lot of overlap now, right? They got a lot of people who can do the things that people at Blizzard were doing and probably do it more efficiently. All right, because they have access to all the assets that Microsoft has. So I don't think it's the end of Blizzard. Now, if Chris Metzen resigned too today, I'd be like, yeah, we're probably fucked. We're in trouble. But that's not what happened. Chris is still there. He's going to take care of the lore. And in terms of developing the game, they still have a rapid cadence that they're going to work with here. We're going to be getting quick expansions, quick patches like we've been seeing. And they have every tool in the book open to them. Every tool in the bag is available for them because they're at Microsoft. They have way more options and assets than they ever did. So I don't think the game's going to end. No, I don't see that happening.
That was all years and years and years ago, and not really
What
that
up,
much
Gandhi?
came out of the incubation division that we ever found out about. So there's that.
That's
And
right,
then there's
Games.
also the survival game. So their unannounced survival game has, well, I don't want to say unannounced, but it has been cancelled. Basically, people are moving on to early development on other projects from Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, we'll
Context
check it
here
out.
is Dan Hay, who led Far Cry 3 and then produced the rest of that series through to 6. He had came on board to the survival project to essentially steer it in 2022. We don't know if he's going to be out. Context that I had heard is that this project had been in development hell. I've actually had numerous people be kind of confused that it hadn't been cancelled.
Oh, really?
I have to imagine that whenever they did that sort of announcement of the unannounced game...
Man, the last like real big game that Blizzard has made was Overwatch, which was actually a canceled MMO project. But it's crazy when you think about it. Like, what else has Blizzard done since then? They've just been iterating on the games that already exist. They've done nothing. No big titles. It's pretty crazy to think about. And this one was supposed to be that next big thing, and it's just not even happening. It got canceled. And I'm sure a lot of people got fired with the ones working on it.
You know, at BlizzCon, that they were, I suppose, trying
And now
to
Overwatch is
rally
essentially
that
dead.
team, get some staff
Thanks
from the
to Overwatch
project,
2.
drum up a bit of interest. Whatever, that just does not seem to have paid off. And very broadly speaking in the industry, we are seeing companies look at medium risk or high risk projects that will be paying off in the longer term. And they're essentially pulling their chips out of that, and they're putting their chips onto safer bets. From the
Yeah,
context-
everybody but Amazon. I feel like Amazon's developing like 7 different MMOs at once. Amazon's just going all in on the big titles. They don't care about the little shits. They're like, MMOs are the future. We're talking about massive open worlds where people can go in, maybe in VR at some point or something, and they're just developing MMO after MMO. So I don't think the genre is not dead, but it takes a lot of commitment to make an MMO, that's for sure.
That I have right now, what a lot of the Warcraft leadership team has said publicly, they're trying to transition that franchise to be more than just World of Warcraft. That was some of the initial framing of Chris Metzen's return. to
It's okay,
Blizzard.
let it
Of
be
course,
just
now
WoW.
he's very
That's how I
heavily
prefer it.
involved doing creative
Put everybody
direction
on WoW.
for the next number of Warcraft MMO expansions. But just between the lines, I do expect them to be doing more things within that IP. When, of course, we think about a lot of other big companies, what are we seeing? We are seeing sticking with safe IP, not making those big bets. So there's that with the survival game,
Yep.
which was codenamed Odyssey. Jason
Sticking
Schreier
with safe IP is not just what Blizzard's doing, it's what every freaking industry is doing. Look at the movies industry. How many damn prequels do we get? Or remakes or reboots? There's no more new IP. It's just all remakes of the old shit. That's the same with the games industry. Everyone's afraid to take a gamble.
said the people at the companies, as of like right now,
Everyone's
do
worried
not
it'll
know
affect the
if
stock.
they are losing their jobs or not. That does match everything that I have seen. Now that you understand that, let's have a talk about the actual memo itself. So, look, I'm just going to read it. We're going to break it down together and analyze it. In a way, this is something that would have been fairly expected, but I think there is going to be a pretty real cost to some of these games. Because even though you can see, oh, you know, there's overlap in these Venn diagrams of what our teams do, that is completely disregarding a lot of specific on-the-job IP, franchise-based and community-based experience that people
No,
will
Fun
have. So let's
Viking,
just go.
I think WoW will be
It has
okay.
been a little over 3 months since the Activision Blizzard and King teams joined Microsoft. As we move into 2024, the leadership of Microsoft Gaming and Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning a strategy and an execution plan with a sustainable cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business.
There you go.
And they say they have set priorities, identified areas of
Sustainable
overlap, and
cost
ensured
structure.
they're all aligned for the best opportunities for growth, and that does mean 1,900 people are going. And to be honest, going through the rest of the memo, it's kind of just like fluffy words. Basically, the point here is consolidation. So, what happens when you actually merge different companies together? Think about, like, development. Now, development, franchise, IP,
this always
if you're
happens.
Microsoft, that's what
I
you're-
mean, regardless of you know, the layoffs that are happening this year and just the trends we see this year in the games industry and the tech industry and in a lot of industries where it's just like, hey, cut, cut, cut. We got to get to a sustainable cost structure. Like that's like I said, those are the key words of corporate America this year: sustainable cost structure. Regardless of that, Blizzard Activision was purchased by Microsoft. There's going to be overlap, and firings are going to happen. That happens with almost every acquisition and merger. That's just guaranteed.
you're actually looking for.
Regardless
you're looking
of
for
how
game
things are
development
working out
teams,
now.
you're looking to acquire intellectual property, and in the likes of, say, King, you're looking to acquire expertise that you do not currently possess. What are you not looking to acquire? Well, maybe a publishing wing, maybe some operational roles, of course, loads of corporate roles, because if you've got Activision Blizzard, you've got King, you've got ZeniMax, and then imagine each one of those structures has its own publishing team, commercial team, this team, that
Yeah,
team.
a lot of
If you're
redundancies.
Microsoft, you're thinking, well, we have all of these duplicated roles across our organization. These don't make sense, so we are going to consolidate them. What this essentially is, right, is you're acquiring an asset, and then you're basically finding all the bits of that asset that you don't want, and then you remove them.
Yep.
So thinking about what the last 3 months likely will have involved, as much as we saw the likes of the campus visits from Phil Spencer, well, on the corporate level, what they're trying to do is minimize the bits they don't want, focus on the bits they do want,
I
which
wonder.
is the development and which is
I
the
wonder when he did his campus visit at Blizzard, if he was walking around there, he's like, "We don't need that. You gonna be done. You gonna be fired. Yeah, you over there. You gonna be gone." Just walking around like, yeah, thinking about how we can trim the workforce down. You don't know how some of these CEOs think, man. They are ruthless.
IP. And essentially,
They
what
didn't get
we're
to their
left with
position
here
by
is
being a nice guy a lot
situation
of
where
times.
when you think about sort of the market, this, almost sort of disembodied thing that we may talk about, the overall function of the market is to try to, I suppose, find efficiency and price it accurately. Broadly speaking, that's what it does. That's why if somebody has money in the S&P 500, it just, notches up a little bit. The problem, though, is a lot of that can be quite conservative. It can be quite based on the next 3 months. Or the next
Yeah,
6
it's
months,
forward-looking,
next year, but not
always.
really the next 5 years. And one of the reasons there is because the investors, people putting their money into the market, what they're always going to be doing is thinking about, well, okay, I get that you have a really nice 5-year plan, but actually these people over here are doing better now, so I'm going to put my money over there. And that's
I like his
essentially
videos.
one of the things that just keeps on pulling us back to focusing about the immediate. And that's something that's worth bringing up because this is totally happening now, partially in the way that it is sort of being announced for investors, because the quarterly
always
earnings
about
call
investors.
for Microsoft is really soon. of course, announcing the Q4
It's
results.
always about investors. I'm telling you, this is how these companies are handling investors this year. They're going with the we're gonna create a more sustainable cost structure. And how are we gonna do that? By, like I said, putting more work on less people. More work on less people. It's more sustainable. We're cutting people. Hey, stock market, look at what we're doing. Look at how we're shrinking our bottom line. Look at that. Profit margins are going to go up. Costs are going to go down. Invest your money here. That's the stock market controls this stuff. Always. Always
The
has, always
Q4
will.
results that may have some spicy numbers in them.
That's
And
why
of course,
startups are
we're
fun
in a
to
time
work
where
for
Microsoft
sometimes.
stock just overtook Apple, making Microsoft the most valuable company on earth. And so that's one of the challenging things. You have this consistent process of trimming the fat, trimming the fat, trimming the fat, always looking to optimize this and optimize that. And in a way, you can understand that.
Okay,
However, sometimes I think there's a degree of losing the forest for the trees. You know, these are not perhaps always optimal for your 5-year health. Things like that. And
Over
also
hire,
some of
over
the things that are
fire.
intangible within
They're gonna have to
business,
fix this
such
eventually.
as culture, such as aspects of bespoke experience. Because yes, while there may be overlap between corporate divisions, between publishing, between marketing, between community management, yeah, those are role overlaps, but we must ask ourselves, are they experience overlaps? Is a community manager from Microsoft going to be able to come over and work in World of Warcraft and just immediately do a great job? Probably not, because the people who have been doing that on World of Warcraft are experienced doing that for World of Warcraft.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Have the people who've been working on World of Warcraft really been doing a great job with World of Warcraft? I mean, Dragonflight's good. Dragonflight, I don't know. Just quick, I don't think they should have gotten fired. I don't think that's okay. But have they really been doing a great job? I mean, Dragonflight's good. I like Dragonflight. It's fine. The story is, a bit too friendly, but that's okay. The gameplay has been good. But, I mean, talking about how these Microsoft guys are going to come in and, are they going to do a good job like the other guys were doing a good job? I don't know if the other guys were doing a good job. There were a lot of misses. A lot of misses in World of Warcraft. Yeah. GE used to do that. They used to cut the bottom 10%, irrespective of their performance. Yes, GE created that freaking shit. A lot of companies use that GE strategy where they just do performance reviews at the end of the year. They cut the bottom 10% regardless of who the hell they are. Yep, and then they hire, and then they fire, and then they hire, and then it's a constant cycle tier. Yeah, very good point. I actually know about that GE theory that you're talking about. Yeah, WoD was the worst expansion ever. I mean, look at Shadowlands to me was, but here's the thing. Maybe WoW needs some new blood in it. I don't know. Maybe it does. Now, it needs new blood with good leadership, and hopefully Chris Metzen is that good leadership. But to sit here and act like World of Warcraft was the greatest game ever currently, and people leaving is a bad thing, I don't know.
All the unique needs of its
WoW had its
community,
own
all the
problems.
unique quirks or whatever, its development team, that is the thing that I think gets lost here. Now, I do have more analysis on this sort of thing, but I want to talk about Mike Ybarra's tweet, because it honestly is quite strange. So he says he thanks everybody for their, the meaningful impacts, says that there's any way you can help, connections,
I'm not shocked by the layoffs.
DM
I'm more
me,
shocked by
which,
this.
I mean, hey, if that's real and he's actually going to try and help people in that personal capacity, obviously that's the sort of thing that I'd support.
Change our Lego
He
drive.
does go on to say, though, that this is his last day at Blizzard. He talks about how it's, been a great time. He wants to be a fan from the outside. This is certainly an interesting one. You may look at this and think, he's informed us it's his last day. The thing then is, I saw a memo from Matt Booty, and this memo from Matt Booty said that Mike Ybarra has decided to leave. But this is where things get a little bit interesting. And credit to Jason Schreier for remembering this from the BlizzCon opening ceremony. Well, Mike Ybarra said that he wants to say for the long haul, quote, "Someone will drag me out of Blizzard. That's how long I will be here."
It's like an old god whisper. Someone will drag me out of Blizzard. He was foreshadowing what was to come. Oh, no. That's how long I will be here. And then I just said like a year later, he's leaving Blizzard. He freaking old god whispered. He foreshadowed his own demise. Yeah, 7 candles to light. 1,900 candles to light my way. Oh, man. So sad. I hope he wasn't still passionate and he wanted to stay. I prefer to just think that he left on his own.
Is that a man who thought, this was November, the start of November, right? Did he think in
He
like
got he
what,
got
two and
he
a
got
bit
old,
months
got killed.
that he would be gone? And when he just said someone will have to drag me out of the building, basically. Yeah, he hasn't literally been dragged out of the building, but something has changed.
Something
Either
changed,
what
yeah.
his role would be just changed in a way that he's no longer okay with it, or he has actually been ousted. We have absolutely no idea, but that's essentially what's going on. Now, per The Verge's sources, this is primarily Activision Blizzard, but some people at Xbox and ZeniMax are impacted.
I agree, Cadence. He probably was anti laying off 1,900 people when they told him you got to do that. He just thought this is going to be tough to overcome, and fuck this, I'm out of here. That happens. Yeah, he may have been against the 1,900 layoff shit. That totally could have happened. Yeah, Bobby Greedy Kotick for Blizzard president. Imagine that, Sam.
A ZeniMax person reveal that they have had their job be cut just before I recorded. We don't really have the full scope of this, and that's why I do intend to do a video on this maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll publish it.
Yeah, he got his marching orders and he didn't like them.
Facts straight before we really dive into that. Obviously, they are Xbox. They've had ZeniMax for a while. They will have had every opportunity via more quiet means to reduce headcounts within those organizations. So yeah, it does look like a lot of this is Activision Blizzard, and that makes complete sense because that's the thing that they just bought.
That's the thing they bought, yeah. Ybarra at that position, yes, I talked about that. He would have gotten a lot of money and stock options, yes. I mean, he was already rich before this. Like, he already had generational wealth. And then with the acquisition merger, because, yes, he was a CEO, I talked about this before, and he had stock options, he made multi-generational wealth now. Like money will never be a thing for anybody with the last name Ybarra. Okay, anyone who is a descendant of his nutsack will never have to work again. Yes, that's true. But a lot of these CEOs are not motivated by money anymore. They reach that status pretty early on, and then they just work because they love to work. But yeah, it could be, this 1900 took a toll on him, and he was just like, you know what, man, this ain't worth it. I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to take a break for a little while. That could be
very clear. Something like this was always coming, right? There's just no way that a big company like that doesn't gobble up another big company for like what, $69 billion.
Yeah,
and
this
then
always
just
happens.
Doesn't try to optimize
Acquisitions
the
and
new
mergers,
asset that
always.
they've gained. The thing is, though, well, the asset that you're optimizing is partially based,
big shot lawyer should
built
be
by
rolling.
and comprised of people.
I wish.
So some of those people are being cut. I think what is maybe surprising to people here is the scale. Yes, it's a large organization. 22,000 is their headcount. But, you know what, like 8% of that is a lot of people. That is, I think,
8.5%. It's like 8.6 or something.
Overtly just
That's a lot.
Shocking as soon as you see it. Ultimately, of course, the genesis of all of this, of course, I mean, it is Bobby Kotick. It is everything that kicked off years ago. Because if you'll remember, the stuff from the, at the time, Californian Department of, what was the DFEH?
Bobby
that
Kotick.
essentially weakened sort of like the position of the board, it seemed, to the point where they were kind of vulnerable to this offer. So essentially, whenever they were in pretty significant trouble, I think Microsoft,
Don't forget
who were
about that
already
0.5%,
wanting to
that's
acquire things, thought, oh, one of the big third-party publishers is vulnerable. They're at a point of weakness. Let's give them a deal that they can't refuse. Because, of course, yeah, Bobby Kotick's gone, but he got a golden parachute. The people who are gone now,
Bobby
likely
Kotick,
not having a golden parachute. I mean, at least with Riot, we saw, I believe per Schreier's read in the situation anyway, essentially industry-leading levels of like severance. We do not know what those packages are going to be here. But of course, the point here is Bobby, he gets to leave with a massive golden parachute, like to the value of hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not a small golden parachute. This is like you can buy a small fleet of jets if you sell all those stocks.
Or boats.
Like tier of golden parachute, right? It's almost a golden helicarrier. The people are not going to get that, and that's the way that is, which is awful. What is also, I think, rather interesting here, this is in and around a 10% layoff. I think it's more like 8, but that is the theme we're seeing. Look at Sony. You're dealing with like 10% across the board. That's just what seems to be going on. Now, the other bit of context here...
These CEOs take notes off each other. They cheat all the time. They look at each other's tests and they look, oh, what are they doing? Oh, yeah, their stock price did this when they did. We're going to do that too. Yeah, we're going to do that too. Yeah, that's what they do. That's why you see a lot of like, when some of these big companies are hiring, a lot of them start hiring. When some of them are firing, a lot of them start firing. You're going to see it across the board. They're usually a foreshadowing of things to come. in different industries. If you look around the industry you're currently working in and you look at what the big boys are doing, most likely your company's going to do that at some point that same year. That's just how it works.
Is Microsoft's second quarter
They all got to
financial
keep up with
results
each
are
other
due to
because
be
the stock
published on
market.
Tuesday,
I
the
got to keep that
30th
shit
of
even.
January. Now, this is when, of course, they would be reckoning with the impact of the big old Activision Blizzard King purchase. So this essentially leaves Microsoft being able to promote their forethought in dealing with that impact ahead of showing the results to shareholders.
It's all
And what do
about
those
the
investors
financials.
think? Well, they're happy. 404, which is probably the error that some Activision Blizzard employees will get this morning when they try to log into a...
That's what I said, man. I'm like, it's all about the market. I told you guys earlier, I was like, watch, they announced the layoffs and watch their stock go up because it's going to help the bottom line. This is what matters. This is what matters. It doesn't matter. People don't matter. The stock price matters. And that's right. And believe it or not, the CEO has a fiduciary duty to the stockholders to do this kind of shit, to fire people if it means it's going to help the company be more profitable. He has a duty not to the employees of the company. He has a duty to the people who own the company, and those are the shareholders. So he has a duty to fire people if it means it's going to make the company more profitable and raise the stock price. It's fucked up, but it's capitalism.
Work portal. Okay, probably won't literally be a 404, but hey, you got the point. It's bloody grim. The thing
they've had a good week in the stock market.
I'm obviously extremely, I'm worried and concerned for all of these
Increasing
people.
revenue
a
per
lot
employee,
of these roles are being lost across the industry, and that actually means, think about the job market. What's the job market based on? Supply and demand. So everyone's tightening their belt, and as a part of that, they're laying off loads of these staff. It's going to be way harder for these people to get jobs. I mean, even
it is
as an
simple
example,
economics. Yep. That's right,
Josh
Marcy.
Allen, he did WoW community stuff back in the day. Then he was WoW community manager. Then he went to like a few other companies. I think most recently he ended up at the studio who do the Dragon Prince stuff. And he sort of said, like, right, I'm actually just going to go fully back into content creation because realistically, he sort of said, there are so many layoffs. Like, you're just left, like, how the fuck am I going to get a job, essentially?
That's what sucks.
So
that's what sucks for these people is because the entire industry is laying off. It's going to be probably hard for them to get a job right now. They're just going to have to wait it out for a little bit. I went through that. I went through a layoff when all the firms were laying people off. Everybody was cutting fucking people out. All the associates were getting fired. And guess what? I just sat on my ass for a little while because I knew nobody was going to hire at that time. And when the hiring gates open again, which they will hire again, overhire, overfire. It's a constant cycle. Then you get another job. That's just how it works. That should be against the law. If that happened to me, I would take their ass to court and sue the fuck out of them. But you'd lose, King Julian. You'd lose. You're almost every state. You're an at-will employee in America, which means there's no contractual obligation for the company to keep your job or to keep you employed. They can just fire you whenever they want. And the only reason they have to give is financially. Yeah, makes sense for the company. Yeah, but workers still have rights. They do have rights. I mean, there's unions and stuff out there. They have rights, but those rights don't supersede the company's right to make money. Got to go to France. Yeah, exactly. Go to Europe. If you don't like true capitalism in America, I guess you got to go to Europe.
Absolutely brutal because it's not like this is one
9-month notice. My God.
This is in a wider context of massive layoffs. I mean, putting the years together, you're like at 15,000 plus. It's just going to be harder for these people to find a job. Like, money is drying up everywhere.
That's what it would take.
Even in like the indie scene from stuff that like I've seen. So this is an absolutely brutal situation. We are going to be monitoring this extremely closely. I'd recommend you check the channel tomorrow or maybe just over on Twitter. I'll let you know what our plans are. What I want to do is see if anybody reaches out, maybe just understand how this has actually happened, what sorts of teams are being impacted, and I'll do my best to essentially try to figure out what this is going to mean to you and kind of bring the broader sort of context and the deeper analysis into this, as of course right now this is currently a breaking news story. So that is the situation. Ultimately, I definitely want to thank my team for being able to just quickly get everything that we've been able to find so far.
Crazy.
So
we'll
we've been
see
able
more
to
of this
do
shit.
video.
No
if you want
doubt.
to support our team,
It's not over yet, boys.
Ghost.io is our own little platform. We're trying to just put our eggs in more baskets. As the person leading this shindig, I mean, like, my number one job right now is ensure this place is healthy and, you know, job security is as high as it possibly can be, because I know that things are bloody rough whatever way you look. So
Yeah,
down
see,
there, we do
Bellular's
exclusive content.
company's not publicly
early
traded,
access to videos. We do loading
so he doesn't have to
screen on
answer
daily
to
publication,
stockholders.
and we're of course going to be growing as time goes on. So there's that. I will see you back here tomorrow. If you're seeing this and
Good
you're at
shit.
these companies, I mean, fuck, there's nothing I can say that's going to make this any better. I'm just sorry you're all being caught up in this. This is awful. Right. I will see you tomorrow.
It's okay, Sam. I'll call your patent office and tell them to lay you off. Yeah, I don't work for the patent office. But, yeah, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I was part of a mass layoff because of COVID. Right? Because you remember the COVID shutdowns? Well, guess what happened? Companies shut down. They stopped needing work from law firms. Law firms stopped getting paid. And here's the best part about it, right? You guys want to hear what the fucking best part was? So before the layoffs happened, they cut our pay. And by cut our pay, I mean they cut associates' pay. The fucking underlings. The young attorneys, our pay got cut. I forgot what it was. It was like a 10% or something cut. Something like that. We got our pay cut, and the partners, the big boys at the top, they didn't cut their salary. What they said was, because they make most of their money at the end of the year from their bonus structure, because they are partners in the firm, so they get a piece of what the firm gets at the end, what the firm made in total. They divvy that up, and that's their big payout at the end of the year. So what the partners said was, we're not taking our cut now. We're going to take our cut at the end of the year, you know, based on what the firm made and everything. We're going to cut our income at the end of the year to ensure that everybody keeps their job. We took our pay cut. Anyways, we took our pay cut. Followed that up a couple months later by mass layoffs. They fired like all the fucking associates. We were all gone out in the street. And then at the end of the year, when the partners came time, when things had turned around, because things did eventually turn around and money came in and everything else, the partners said, well, we ended up making more than we thought we were going to make, so we don't got to take a pay cut. We're going to take our usual. Oh, yeah, man. Corporate America, let me tell you. It's good shit. It's good shit. You love it and you hate it. But there it is. Yeah, feels for those 1,900. Hopefully they land on their feet.